introduce you to Steph Jensen. We had the pleasure as a faculty of meeting Steph last March, I believe, one of the days when the kids are off, but we have a faculty professional day. We had Steph come and do a workshop with our teachers about how boys and girls and their brains are different, what that looks like in a classroom, how we as teachers and educators can continue to be aware of that and support them in the proper way. And then our commitment to responsive classroom and developmental designs in terms of that social emotional learning and really helping kids to build relationships face to face fits right into where Steph, the message that she'll give us today in terms of we live in a technology-rich society that's not going away, and how do we manage it, and how do we make the best choices for our kids, and quite honestly, for ourselves. From last night's again, walked away with things that I as an adult need to do a better job of modeling for my fourth grader and for myself. Steph has been a teacher, a team leader, a consultant, has spoken nationally on this subject, is an author as well, and because she won't say it at the end because she's too humble, she has published some books, and they're in the back. You can take a look at those if you like on your way out. But without further ado, Steph Jensen.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. I know we always have to get our kids up for school early, but sometimes we don't get ourselves up ready every day. So I appreciate y'all being here this morning. My name is Steph Jensen, and I can tell you, I started out thinking, there were a couple things that I always knew. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. When you get into middle school and you start meeting with your career counselor, you can make a plan for that. And so there's like an instruction manual. I knew what kind of education I needed to get in order to be a teacher. I'm pretty specific about goals. I'm a checklist person. Like, I get great satisfaction of checking a box. And so when I was kind of setting those goals, I knew what I needed to do to be a teacher, and I knew that I wanted to be a middle school teacher specifically, so I knew what I had to do in order to accomplish that. There's a checklist for that. The other part of that was I knew that I wanted to have a family, so that was something else that they talk to you about as you're kind of looking at balancing career and family and having those conversations. And so I knew I wanted a family, and again, I was pretty specific. I wanted children. I wanted 5. I wanted 5 boys. I didn't know how to make a checklist for that, and so I thought, this was about age 13 or 14, I thought, well, the thing that I can do is I can just pray. Like, I thought that was my best option. So every night at the end of my prayers from about age 14, at the end, I would say, and dear God, please don't let me have daughters. And I thought I was covered. So that was the checklist for that. So I went to college, and got my degree in middle school education, which was really fantastic. Now, I was the first cohort that went through the University of Nebraska that got an actual middle school degree. And I was very excited to write all kinds of essays, go through an interview process to be accepted into this new middle school program. I called my parents to let them know the good news that I'd been accepted, and my dad, in his way, he always kind of knew that there's like the second shoe gonna drop. And he's like, so what exactly does that mean? And I said, well, the one thing about it is, it's a 5-year degree instead of a 4-year degree, because we all know middle school kids are crazy. So we take an additional year of psychology classes for this certification. So I went through, so my checklist was working out really well. I met the love of my life in college, and I shared with him, as you do, as you're kind of talking those conversations about marriage and family. And so I told him I wanted kids. He was good with that. I said, I want 5 boys, and he was good with that. Now, looking back, I don't know exactly that he truly wanted 5 children, but he was all willing to try for 5 children, so it worked out for both. And so this was our plan, and we have our first child. Everything's wonderful. It's a boy, as planned. So I'm thinking, okay, this checkbox thing really works. Like, I hammer this into you, so this is really working out for us. I'm teaching middle school. I'm loving it. Have our first child, pregnant with the second one. Have a baby, and the doctor says, it's a girl. And I say, no, it's not. And my husband looks down at me with fear in his eyes, and he says, honey, yeah, it's a girl. And I said to him in that very special, delicate moment, well, clearly you failed. But I share this story because it truly was a pivot point, professionally and personally for me. Like I said, I knew I wanted to be in education. I knew I wanted to teach middle school. I really just wanted to teach middle school boys because growing up, I just really didn't like girls. I thought girls were pretty awful. And so this really threw me into this. I needed to kind of deal with some of my own issues to figure out how to be a better mom for a daughter, and also to be a better educator for the girls that were in my classroom. And so from there, this is where I'm at. God takes you on all kinds of fun adventures. Detours generally don't end in disaster. They generally end in something fantastic. And that's what I've found to be in my career. So over the last 4 years, who would have thought I've spoken primarily on girl issues? My background is in behavior. So from my teaching in middle school, I was working on a master's degree in reading. Because of course, who do you typically have in your at-risk reading groups? So I thought that was great. But my career kind of got diverted. I started working for an organization called Boys Town. It was interesting, my second year of teaching, my son was 2, our school adopted the Boys Town education model. Are any of you familiar with Boys Town? Okay. Boys Town's the largest child care organization in the world. If any of you are insomniacs, you may have seen the Father Flanagan's Boys Town movie with Mickey Rooney and Spencer Tracy. That is the Boys Town that I'm referring to. And so my second year of teaching, when our son was 2, I was pregnant with our daughter, and we did the Boys Town training. Now I said there was an instruction manual for being a teacher. There were things that you had to learn, things that you had to know. You had to master certain things before you could go, and they would entrust you with a class of little people. Well, parenting, there's no instruction manual. There's no guide for that. There's no mastery in any type of skills for being a parent. And so I was completely ill-equipped as a parent. And so when I went through this training, it was eye-opening for me. I went home every day and taught it to my husband and said, this is the way that we have to parent kids. And really, it's just all around behavioral perspective. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today, is just some of that foundation of behaviors. I travel now all over the world. I go to Japan about twice a year, Mexico and Canada, as well as all over the United States. And what I've learned is kids are kids are kids. Behavior is behavior. So what we experience here really isn't anything different or new from what people are experiencing with their kids all over the world. So we're going to talk about some of the just basic principles of behavior today and get a little bit of understanding around why our kids engage in the behaviors that they do. So before we do that, I would like you just to take a little walk down memory lane with me. I want you to think back and go back in your mind and reintroduce yourself to that middle school you. Middle school to me is anywhere 4th grade through 9th grade. So think about those years, 4th grade through 9th grade, and what were some of those things that the middle school you was looking forward to? What did you look forward to? What were you excited about? What were you concerned about? What were you anxious about? What did you worry about? What consumed the thoughts of that middle school you? And I want you to take just a minute, just a few seconds to go back and reacquaint yourself with that middle school person. And what comes to mind? What are some of those things that you were thinking about, you were excited about, you were looking forward to? Yeah.
I wanted a pair of Jordache jeans.
Jordache, I wanted your bow. That was a big, big thing, right? So clothes. What else?
Sports.
Yeah, fitting in, sports. Okay, what else? You can just say that. What else?
High school.
High school, so transitions. Okay, what else?
Grades.
Grades. What else?
Parties.
Yeah.
Body image.
Okay. Good. What else?
Navigating my parents' divorce.
Ah, good. Okay, what else?
Talking over
Ah. Okay. Phone time. What else?
Boys.
Boys. So love relationships. Yes.
Independence.
Yes. Good. What else?
Knowing God through disappointment.
Knowing God?
Through disappointment.
Okay.
In disappointments.
Yeah. Okay, what else? Good.
Sibling rivalries.
Uh-huh. Yes, what else?
Probably drama with your friends.
Okay, good. So, what are we gonna call it? Let's just call it drama. What else? Keep it simple. Anything else?
Peer pressure,
Peer pressure in what regards?
like choices, you saw friends making choices that you weren't sure, like about drinking or smoking or.
Okay. Anything else? Drinking, smoking, and what's the other big one? Who wants to What else? The kids will say it, let me just tell you. What else?
Managing an allowance, money.
Oh, budgeting, money, yes.
The Nike and OP.
Oh, that is so funny,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, what else? Forgot about OP, I hadn't thought about my OP for a long time. What else? Anything else?
Understanding our teachers.
Makeup, hair, looks, yes. What about teachers?
So understanding our teachers.
Teachers. Yeah. All right, now I want you to switch gears. And I want you to think about your kids today. What are they excited about? What are they looking forward to? What are they worried about? What are they anxious about?
Social media.
All these things? And the difference? I think you touched on it. Social media. Okay? Now, when you think about social media is just a thing. What is the purpose behind the social media? Because if it were just a device that didn't turn on and didn't do anything, they would have no interest in it, right? They get over that at about age 2. When you think about little people and the remote control, right? Like they want the remote control. They want to be in charge, but after, about age 3 or 4, they're kind of over that. It's not that interesting anymore. So the cell phone, the social media would have no interest to our kids except for the purpose. What purpose does it play? Yes. For what? Fitting in?
No.
Showing the clothes that they're wearing? Hair, makeup, body image? All of those things. It's just a different tool. So when I think about kids today, I think it's important for us to understand that kids haven't changed. The tools for kids have changed. But the reason behind the desire that feeds that motivation hasn't changed over time. And so when we look at just kind of breaking that down, oh, did we get that in? You did not. Sorry. Oh, yeah. That's strange. It's just not wanting to work. When we think about breaking that down over time, I just really want to go back to so we talked about then and now, kids haven't changed. But I want to break it down to just biology in the brain. So first, nature. There have been many studies conducted, and there's one up here. The original was done by Dr. Nikki Crick, who was kind of the pioneer in looking at the differences between the ways boys exhibit aggression and the way girls exhibit aggression. And so what she found was that girls become physiologically aroused when they consume content that is relationally aggressive. So social aggression causes physiological arousal within the female brain. In a similar way that physical aggression causes or elicits stimulation in the male brain. So the way we did this study, and it was most recently replicated in 2014 in a study called Frenemies, Freighters, and Meaninators. I just love the name of that study. And what they found was, there we go, that what they did basically was they put the monitors on boys and girls, and then they had them consume content. And so let's say you put the boys and girls in the room and they put on football or MMA. And just think about boys that you've been around when they consume that kind of content. When they are watching football or they're watching an MMA fight, what do they do during timeouts, breaks, or commercials? What do the boys do? They act it out, right? They become physically aggressive, okay? Now, the girls in that same room, what do? Nothing. Like, there's absolutely no stimulation whatsoever, okay? So now, switch the content, and it's something highly relationally aggressive. So think about some of the content that our girls are consuming. So, Housewives Choose Your City, Gossip Girls, Pretty Little Liars, some of this content, Dance Moms, yes, that they're consuming. So you put that on, and the girls, what do you think happens during commercial breaks? They become more relationally aggressive, so they become more snarky to one another, or they go to their social media and they post aggressive type things on media. So they become socially aggressive in the same way that boys become physically aggressive after consuming that kind of content. What do you think the boys do as they're watching Housewives or Gossip Girls? Yeah, they're completely checked out. Absolutely no stimulation whatsoever. So again, it goes back to just the basic wiring of the female brain versus the male brain. The female brain is much more in tune to social aggression, where the male brain is much more in tune to physical aggression. Which what that leads to then is the second point, that we will start to see socially aggressive behaviors or responses in our girls as early as age 2. And that really shouldn't surprise us, because do we see physical aggression in boys at age 2? Yes. Because it is the natural and normal response in difficult and challenging situations. The natural, normal female response is going to be relational aggression, trying to manipulate or harm the relationship. The natural, normal response with males in difficult and challenging situations is going to be physical. So using physical manipulation or physical aggression to control the situation. It's natural and normal, okay? Now, here's where the different comes in, where I say that tools have changed, messages have changed as well, to some degree. Think about two 6-year-old boys. You're a bunch of the boys from the neighborhood or over at your house, they're playing in the backyard. They're playing kickball. 2 boys are chosen as the team captains. They have a nice little game of kickball going on in your backyard. And they're about ready to be called in. You're making dinner. You're going to call them in the house. And so the kickball game needs to end. It's all tied up. And one boy makes what would be the game-winning kick. Okay? However, grass blades are hard to read. Sometimes it's hard to see if it's truly inbounds or out of bounds. So the 2 team captains start to argue. And before you know it, one shoves the other one throws the ball, and then they're down on the ground wrestling or fighting. Okay. My first question to that is that bullying? So I think it's important to keep that in context. Is that bullying? No. Second question, what do you do? Parent, adult, what do you do? Oh. Okay, right. We're gonna get in. We're gonna break them up. We're gonna check for the three B's: blood, breaks, and bruises. Make sure everyone's okay. And then what? Generally, we're going to have a conversation, and it's going to sound something like, when you guys don't agree, instead of using your fists, what? Use your words, right? So from a very, very early age, they are being taught intentionally and consistently from any adult, when you start to engage in physical aggression, which is natural and normal, the more socially appropriate response is use your words. So we're teaching that to our boys consistently to go against what that natural response is, because that's not socially acceptable. Now, let's say you have 2 6-year-old girls. You take them to the park, and there's one swing left. And so the 2 girls run to the swing, and Sarah says to Alicia, if you don't let me have a turn, I won't be your friend. Okay, first question, is that bullying? No. It is exactly the same. On the surface, it is exactly the same as what we just talked about, the 2 boys. It is the natural, normal response for girls. Question number 2, what do we do about it?
Share it.
And a lot of times we don't see it, right? So what happens? That natural normal response is reinforced. Because more than likely Sarah got her way. And so now Sarah knows, okay, if I want to get my way in friendships, I'm going to manipulate. Okay, I'm going to use my words and I'm going to manipulate. Now, what if Alicia comes and tells us, parent or adult, Sarah just said she won't be my friend if I don't give her the swing. What's kind of a normal response for us as adults? Baby, go play with someone else. Okay? We don't take the same time to check for the 3 B's because she's standing there with a virtual bloody nose. Okay? Those words hurt. But we're not addressing it. We're not shaping a more pro-social behavior with the girls in the same way that we are with the boys. Because it's a little bit more difficult, right?
Mama.
We might say, if we don't say go play with someone else, so basically fix it yourself, which they can't, then we might say, you girls need to share. Well, we're going to get to the sharing part, but the sharing part wasn't the problem. What was the problem? The words. The words were the problem. Just like with the boys, the fists were the problem, and then we get to here's what you do instead. Well, with the girls, the words were the problem. The what you do instead is to share. And here's how we share. We use words like, can I have a turn? And this is how we accept a no answer if someone says no. We're not doing that with our girls because it's not as easy. We can't say, use your words, because they already are. So that natural, normal behavior without good teaching will become sustained. Now, then you also look at, the second thing that I said is not only the tools have changed, the messages have changed. Messages to our girls has changed significantly. I'll just give you one quick example. Think about, I go back to the really, really olden days and Little House on the Prairie. Was there relational aggression in Little House on the Prairie?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? Think about the facts of life. Where is there relational aggression in the facts of life? Yes, okay? Blair, yes, so anytime I say those things, people say Nellie or Blair, right? Now then you fast forward to the early 2000s in Hannah, Montana. Is there relational aggression in Hannah, Montana? That's where things become confused. This is where the message changed. When we talk about, when we would think back to those shows, those programs, the message to girls, to women was Nellie and Blair were pretty quite awful. Even though they were the prettiest, the wealthiest, the most powerful, no one watching wanted to be like them. We knew that they were the antagonists, right? We wanted to be more like Tootie or Joe or Mary, okay? Even though they weren't portrayed as the wealthiest, the prettiest, had the best